I still remember the first time I ever saw it. It was just sitting there, innocently placed among the seats. As my dad was getting his hair cut, I remember picking it up and being in awe. The exhilaration I was feeling, the rush, it was unlike any feeling I had ever felt. And in that moment, I would do anything to maintain this burst of excitement I was experiencing. All of a sudden, my dad turned to me, and in an instant, I felt an urge to hide my newfound prize. But it was too late. When my dad finished getting his hair cut, we had a long talk. He said all of the right things, telling me of his own experiences, the consequences he had gone through, the path that it would lead to. But all his efforts were in vain. Little did I know my life would never be the same. I was 13 the first time I ever looked at pornography. At this point in my life, I don't get upset when I hear there's no such thing as porn addiction. Those words used to bother me. I used to try to convince people otherwise. Now I'm more aware to understand that this might not be everyone's experience, but it has certainly been mine. As a child, watching porn was simply a byproduct of the restrictions put in place by my parents. At the time, it seemed like a mere attempt to explore my sexuality and nothing more. Growing up in a Christian household with an immense amount of rules and structure, as well as attending a Christian private school, sheltered me from a lot. But the one caveat was not having an outlet. As I transitioned to a public high school, the stress of trying to assimilate into this new world around me began to mount. It felt as if a bomb were inside me, ready to detonate at any second. And eventually, the bomb went off. Now, initially, due to the way my household worked, we had no internet at home. So I managed to stay away from porn for some time. During this time, however, masturbation became pretty much an everyday occurrence. If I ever had triggers in my life, this became the sole coping mechanism. Didn't get a good grade, didn't have a good basketball game. My mom grounded me for calling her crazy, again. It soon became the answer to all my life stressors. And then that day came where we got internet, and my world seriously turned upside down. The combination of pornography and masturbation is one at that young age I realized I wasn't ready for. There is now scientific research to show that someone's brain on porn is exactly similar to someone's brain on cocaine. Cocaine. At the time, I truly didn't understand what I was doing to myself and how something that seemed so innocent would end up hurting the people that I loved. So when I got to Wash U for college, I had one goal: avoid porn at all costs. And at first, this strategy worked. But all it took was one glimpse, and I was sucked back into that feeling of powerlessness that I had experienced in high school. But this time around, it was much worse. Remember all the structure that I had at home? It was gone. Now I had complete freedom and agency to decide how to spend my time. And with a laptop, internet, and autonomy, the result was inevitable. Pornography became a daily thing, and not just for a sexual release. I craved the control that it gave me. In a sense, I felt connected to the women on the screen. It was providing me with a false sense of intimacy. And with the power of the internet, I could satisfy this feeling over and over and over again. I didn't realize how this constant binging was forming my view of sex and warping my view of women. Instead of valuing women like I was taught by my parents, porn began to make me see women as objects, as means to an end, as being solely made for my pleasure. Things continued on like this throughout my freshman year, and I continued to use porn to cope with the daily stresses of college, and fell further and further down the rabbit hole. And then I met the woman that eventually would become my wife. I believe in every person's life, there are people that come along and open up your eyes to things about yourself that for some reason you can't see on your own. For me, Jordan was that person. Jordan and I started dating my sophomore year, and it became evident early on that this would be the woman that I would spend the rest of my life with. Beautiful story, right? But soon for me, this realization became a beautiful nightmare. You see, part of being in love is truly being connected to someone is being vulnerable. So soon I realized that if I truly loved Jordan, I would have to share these struggles with pornography that I was having. So one day I sat her down and poured everything out. As I sat there in agony, anxious about the status of our relationship, I was shocked to see her so calm and supportive. I left that conversation with a great sense of relief. My relief, however, was short-lived. You see, the next day, Jordan asked to talk, and the true reaction came forth. She was devastated, tearfully expressing how she didn't understand why I would seek after this stuff if I loved her. One thing I remember distinctly was her talking about questioning her self-worth. And in that moment, the feelings of guilt and shame were immense. It was hard for me to fathom how I had let things get to this point, how I had let my life get so out of control. In the time that passed afterwards, doubt began to creep in about whether or not our relationship would last. In 3 days, Jordan and I will have been married for 9 months. Why tell this story? It's certainly not easy for me to be here in front of you exploring my life's mistakes. But being here for me is all part of healing. This is a temptation I have to fight every single day. But one of the only things that has made it easier is talking about it. I'm not sure why masculinity is equated to keeping our issues, our fears, our insecurities inside in order to keep up a facade that everything is okay when it's not. It's okay to not be okay. I still have my struggles with pornography, but I'm in a much better place since I admitted that I had a problem. I started talking with a therapist. I got involved with other men and women who had the same problem. And most importantly, I found people to help me stay accountable and encourage me to talk through my pain as opposed to turning to pornography. In a sense, I feel like God has granted me a second chance at life. I'm not perfect, but I know with His help, I can change. As I have been in recovery, I have been discovering how much time I have lost. But at the same time, I've discovered healthier habits to replace the illusion of fulfillment that I found in porn. I started taking piano lessons. I joined a boxing gym. I stepped completely out of my comfort zone and took a storytelling class and performed it in a venue similar to this. And the result is that I have found happiness I never knew I could find. Most of all, I discovered my lack of emotional literacy due to porn. Instead of turning to that when I'm in stress or in pain, I'm learning to sit in that pain and make others aware of when I'm not okay. The results have been astounding. I'm discovering feelings and emotions that I didn't even know I had. I'm still on the road to recovery, and truthfully, I understand this is a lifelong journey. I know it won't be easy, but I love the person I'm becoming, and I look forward to the journey ahead. Thank you.